Hi, I'm Elliott Greenblott, and I'm often referred to as Mr. Scammer because of my 3 years of working with AARP and its Fraud Watch initiative. And we're back here with Chris and with Lauren on the role of the Attorney General's office in preventing fraud and opposing fraud. And I'd like to pick up where we left off in the last program, Lauren. We were talking about the CAP program, Consumer Assistance Program, and one of the pieces that you mentioned has to do with small business in Vermont.
Yep.
So if you could give us a little overview of what happens as far as fraud and what you're seeing with fraud in small business.
Of course. So I, as the small business advocate, talk all day, every day with Vermont small business community. And a lot of what I'm hearing are scam reports. So small businesses, in the past, a common thing that we were seeing was they would get a fake order for goods or services, and they would get a fake check in the mail. And the scammer would contact them and say, I want to purchase, X amount of your product. Please ship it to me. I'll send you a check in the mail. When the check would come, it would be for more than the agreed upon amount. And so they would contact the scammer who's posing as a buyer, and they would say, you accidentally sent me too much money. And the scammer would say, oh, no, go ahead, cash that check, send me the product, and then wire transfer or send a bank transfer for the difference. So the excess that I paid you, you can send back to me. And so business owners would do that, thinking they were engaging with a customer, and then they would find out later that the check was fake. And so any amount, the difference that they then wired to the scammer is gone, as well as the products that they may have already shipped. So that's a common trend we had been seeing. Now, more recently, we're getting calls about small businesses that are receiving fake orders online using stolen credit card numbers. And it's kind of the same fact pattern where the scammer is basically trying to get the small business to send the product without actually having to pay for it. So in those cases, whenever a small business has concerns that they may be being scammed, or if they've already spotted the scam, they should reach out to our office. We can talk through the steps and recommendations we would have. And in cases of online fraud, we always recommend that people, including small business owners, report that to the FBI, their Internet Crime Complaint Center, ic3.gov.
Okay, thank you. I just want to break for a second and again introduce formally my two guests. Chris Curtis, who is from the Public Protection Division of the Attorney General's Office, and Lauren Jandl, who is with the Consumer Assistance Program. So again, welcome. We jumped in before I did the formal introduction.
Well, thank you for continuing the conversation. Another common scam that's out there, and it was a new one for me, but just in the last year, we've seen a tremendous spike in activity in this area, and it really affects small businesses and homeowners alike. And it gets this issue of, look, the small business person in Vermont is working hard. They got a million things to do. They're probably wearing 3 different hats trying to run the business, provide good customer service, get their orders shipped and filled and everything else. So they do soup to nuts. Everything that you got to do to keep that business going and provide for themselves and their families. It's the small business is really the lifeblood of the Vermont economy, and you really can't afford to lose an extra nickel or waste time. Big part of it is time, trying to unwind or figure out some kind of scam that you might be caught up in. It's a huge headache. A new one that really came across our radar and really highlights the importance of partnerships is an electric utility scam. So what happens is the scammer will call up posing as the electric utility company and saying, hey, you didn't pay your bills. You owe us, $300 past due, and we got a truck coming over to shut off the service to your place right now. They're on the way. But if you pay me right now over the phone, or if you get me a gift card, and you wouldn't believe how often it's a gift card that the scammers want, get me that payment right now or wire transfer it to me, and we'll make sure your power stays on. And here's the business owner trying to figure out, where's this coming from? Is this really my utility company? Why would they do that? Wait a minute, I paid my bills. I'm pretty sure I did. But now they're having to track back through their records. They're having to figure out, did I really pay? Did I not pay? Was the check held up for some reason? Is there really somebody coming to shut this off? Then they're contacting the power company. The power company is saying, what are you talking about? We didn't send anybody out and we don't have any record of this. So it can be very scary and very time consuming for that small business person. What a headache to have to deal with. But I want to give credit to the utility companies across Vermont who very quickly, their switchboards were lighting up with these kinds of complaints. And they reached out to us and said, what can we do? So we did a joint press release with all the utility companies on board to get the word out about this.
A general alert.
Yeah.
And then we issued what we call a scam alert, which is a program, a new program in Vermont you can sign up for through our partners at the Public Safety Department. Lauren can talk more about Scam Alert in a minute. But we blasted that out to thousands of Vermonters in real time to say, don't be fooled. Hold on to your money. Nobody's coming to shut your power off. That's not the way the electric utilities do business. So, it's when there's those new and unique or different scams that we're hearing about. They affect small businesses, they affect homeowners, and there's a lot we can do to stop those scams from happening in their tracks.
Yeah, and we're seeing at AARP a lot of calls as well on that. Typically, these calls were coming in the winter. And they were coming in from people who were getting the call from the utility company at night.
Yep.
That's scary.
Yeah.
You need your power in the winter.
And similarly, for small businesses, these scammers are quite clever, and so they would focus on certain industries like restaurants, and they would call during like a lunch rush hour. And so the business owner is busy serving customers. If they're being told that they're going to lose power in the next 30 minutes, and they have a restaurant that's full of patrons, even if they don't actually think that they owe money to their electric company, the scammers are creating scenarios in which they can convince business owners to just pay and then try to sort it out later. But as you know, when you pay a scammer, that money's gone.
Money is gone.
And some of them are very sophisticated. So for example, they will say, oh, you can call us back. And they will have gone in and copied the phone tree by recording an actual phone tree at a real utility. So when you call back, it sounds like you're getting the recording from your actual utility, but then the only option that works to press to make a payment is the one to make a payment. So you can't talk to a real customer service representative, you can't get a real person, you can't do anything. But if you want to make a payment, it'll allow you to do that. And that's a tricky way that they are fooling people. And people just have got to be aware. Our advice is hang up the phone. If you're getting an unsolicited call like that, hang up. Affirmatively go out and call your own utility company and talk to them directly.
Right. Use a number that you know to be correct, which is something we recommend too when you get the call from the credit card company saying you owe a bill. Any of these so-called official calls, verify where you're calling by going to a trusted number. For instance, if it's a credit card, go to the back of your credit card, call the number that's on the card rather than the number that is showing up on the computer screen or in the phone call.
That's exactly right.
Miss Lee, this is Agent Williams from the tax office. Our records show an unpaid balance on your account. If you don't pay by end of day, you'll be facing jail time. Well, the fastest way to fix this is with a prepaid debit card. Can you go get one now? Yes, and we want to clear this up. If you just buy that prepaid card, put $400 on it, then call me back and read the numbers to me.
The moment they ask for a prepaid card is the moment you know something's wrong. Think before you send money.
Let's go a little deeper into CAP and what the CAP initiative does. On an annual basis, the program has collected and then reported on the scams that are affecting Vermonters. And usually that document comes out, well, I would say in January. We're obviously not ready to look at the 2018, but we do have the numbers for 2017. And if my guess is correct, we're not going to see huge differences. We'll probably see a very similar pattern because that pattern has kind of maintained itself over the past few years. And we are showing that pie chart graph right now to the folks watching. And I want to just explore some of the topics there because they're kind of interesting. Apparently, the number one reported attempt is the IRS scam. And it would seem that by now people would be getting the idea that the IRS is not going to call you. But what are you finding in terms of that particular scam at CAP?
Yeah, so I think you're absolutely right. While we don't have the 2018 numbers quite yet, I would take a bet that the most common scam report we're receiving is the IRS scam. And you're right, we are hearing from a lot of folks who are calling and reporting and saying, I know this is a scam, but I wanted to make sure you had this information so that you have either the phone number that they're telling me to call, or so that you know that this area of Vermont is being affected by this issue. So we are getting a lot of calls from people who are aware of the scam. That said, we still talk with folks who aren't aware of the scam and in some cases have lost money as a result of it. I think that one of the reasons why the IRS scam in particular is so effective is that for so many of us, we hear that the IRS is trying to get in touch with us. And
Not exactly warm, fuzzy feelings.
Exactly.
Right?
Our initial reaction is, ooh, why are they trying to reach me? So I think it creates a sense of fear in a lot of folks. And I think, too, they make the stakes pretty high. So these scammers will call and they'll say, if you don't pay within the next 30 minutes to an hour, there's going to be a sheriff who's going to come arrest you. There's already a warrant for your arrest. The only way that you can get around this is by wire transferring money to us or buying gift cards and paying us. And I think there are a couple of things that we should keep in mind. One, there are people that may actually owe money to the IRS, and they know that, and they're working with the IRS to sort it out. And so when they get these calls, they might think that they're real. Another kind of going back to the issue of the utility scams, sometimes people will say, well, this must be a mistake and I'm going to sort it out, but I don't want the sheriff to come arrest me in half an hour, so I'm going to pay now and then I'm going to kind of backtrack and try to sort it out later and get my money back when I prove to the IRS I don't actually owe them. But as we just mentioned, when you've paid a scammer, that money is gone. So the things to keep in mind is that the IRS will never call you at your home and threaten you or harass you, demand immediate payment. We always like to remind people that if you owe money to the IRS, they're going to contact you by providing you with written notice that you then have the ability to appeal if you feel is a mistake. So when you're getting these calls and they're telling you need to pay immediately, it's a scam.
Okay. And since the IRS, last that I knew, was a federal agency, the idea that they're going to involve local law enforcement is kind of far-fetched.
Pretty dubious. And I gotta chime in here on this, though, because this points out one of the common misperceptions, right? There's always a lot of concern about Vermont's vulnerable populations, and we at the Attorney General's office, we care a lot about everybody from kids who may be vulnerable to older Vermonters who may be at risk because of social isolation or any number of other factors. But the truth is that these scammers are equal opportunity offenders. Mm-hmm. These scams affect everybody, and the IRS scam is one of the biggest ones that just cuts across all socioeconomic lines, age groups, everything. And the truth is, I'll tell you a story. Every year now, around April 1st, around April Fool's Day, right? We don't want people getting fooled. We do a big press conference with our friends at the tax department, and Commissioner Sampson has been a wonderful partner in getting the word out about this. They don't want people getting ripped off because of a tax scam either. And they track those calls because they get them too. People calling the Vermont Department of Taxes saying, geez, do I owe money? Mm-hmm. So they're very active on this issue and engaged, a great partner. But we had a press conference a couple of years ago with a wonderful woman from, I think, down in Randolph or someplace. And she was a financial manager at an electric co-op. And she shared her story and she said, I spent 3 days living in terror, bouncing back and forth with phone calls to these people because they kept giving me a number to call, and I would ask to talk to a supervisor, and they would get a different person to be in on the scam, and they kept telling me, you're going to be locked up. Mm-hmm. Lady, do you want to deal with us now, or do you want to deal with us when you're in jail? All of this stuff. And she said, I was terrified because I genuinely thought I had done something wrong or there was some colossal mix-up that I was now ensnared in. And she said it sounded pretty authentic. And she said, though, finally by day 3, the last person that she talked to became so verbally abusive and angry, swearing at her, taking all kinds of liberties on this phone call. She finally put it together and said, this is not how a governmental agency would operate. And she realized it, and she turned to our office and called to report it, try to trace it back. And again, it's one of those things where very hard to enforce, but thank God she was able to, in time, stop herself before she transferred any money to these scam artists. But that's what's out there, and it can be very scary. It often starts with a robocall and a number to call back, and when you get somebody on the phone, they can very quickly become very aggressive and very threatening and very abusive. So that's a giveaway in some sense that you shouldn't be engaging.
Yeah.
Right.
But on the other hand, if you're susceptible to it and you're not sure, it can be very scary.
Yeah.
But that's true for anybody. It could be a financial manager in the prime of her career, or it can be, a kid who's just starting out in their career, or it can be an older person who's retired and doesn't know what the heck happened and why are they being reported like this.
We find that the stock and trade of these people who breed on deception, which really is what it is, are very good at how to address human behavior. They seem to be, I guess, great psychologists because they know when people are distracted. They know how to build anxiety. And when you start to get into this emotional development, people tend to lose common sense and reason, and they react more at a gut level. And it's a matter of, how do you maintain that safety cushion so that you don't get emotional during the attempted scam, and you start acting in a more reasonable way and say, would this really happen? Or is somebody playing games with me or trying to take advantage of me?
Well, you touch on a really important point there, Elliott, because we'll talk about the pie chart some more in a minute, because I'm sure there's some other scams you want to talk about. But this vastly underreports the number of scam activity in Vermont. We know that in August of 2018, there were 8 million robocalls placed in the state of Vermont. A state with a population of 600,000 people. 8 million calls in 1 month alone. That's a huge number. Many of those were from scam artists, some just from telemarketers, which are legitimate but nuisance calls. I think the key thing here, though, you talked about the emotions that people go through when they're caught up in one of these things. And God forbid you're somebody that fell into the trap and you've lost some money. One of the things we hear routinely is people are embarrassed and ashamed to talk about their experience because they feel like they don't want to be the one that fell for it, and that they're worried that they're the only ones and this doesn't happen to anybody else. It's happening to everybody else. And what I would encourage your viewers to do is to share your stories, talk about this, tell your friends and neighbors, even if, or especially if, you happen to fall into that trap at one point or another in your life, because it's that story that's going to be the caution that saves somebody else. Right? It's almost like a neighborhood watch, a fraud watch, if you will, for the broader community. And I'll tell you, I got a call from somebody the other day that got one of our scam alert things, and he said, I just had a phone call with one of these scammers, and I was kind of toying with them because I knew all about it because I had seen the press conference and I got the scam alert, so I knew. But he said, that's the public service that organizations like AARP are doing, our friends at DFR, the Attorney General's office. When we get the word out and when your viewers share their stories with their family members and their friends, that's the public service that they're doing because they're saving somebody else. So don't be embarrassed. Don't be ashamed. Tell your story.
Yeah, it's that underreporting and tied to the fact that I'm embarrassed that I fell for this. And we found that a lot of people just don't want to, you're very happy to share good news.
Yeah.
But when it's something like I fell for a scam, well, that may indicate that I'm not as smart as people think I am, so I'm not going to say anything. And we found that tends to be a major issue in this reporting matter.
Do you know the writer and commentator Willem Lang?
Yes.
So he's very well known around the state. Of course, he does the Favor Johnson story around the holidays, which we're heading into. But he wrote a very compelling op-ed about his experience with this, which I viewed as a great public service, and it involved the grandparent scam. And so maybe you can talk about what that is, and I'm sure Cap has seen those as well, so Lauren, you can share. But he wrote a very compelling story about how he and his wife at the time fell into this, thinking that they had received a call from their grandson in trouble. Mm-hmm. Talk about that.
We have, we've got a couple. We could go on to
how much time you got?
How much? But let's go to the grandparent scam, because we see that as being basically one of the more successful fundraising scams that are out there.
Yeah, and I think that going back to how you were describing the IRS scam, the grandparent scam is a very emotional scam. So these scammers, typically the way it works, if your viewers haven't heard of it before, is you'll get a cold call and they'll pick up the phone and the person will say, "Grandma, Grandpa, it's me." And then they wait for you to say, "Lauren, how are you? What's going on?" And you say, "Yeah, it's me, Lauren. I was in an accident. I need you to help me in, some way, whether it's wire transferring money to get me out of jail, buying gift cards and giving the redemption information to get me out of the hospital or pay for medical bills." The fact patterns may vary, but the crux of it is that there's always some type of problem that your grandchild or another loved one may have experienced that they're asking you to help them get out of. But they say, please don't tell mom or dad or anyone else in the family, which is basically saying, don't check the story that I'm telling you to see if it's real or not. And so grandparents, care very deeply about their grandchildren and will do whatever they can to help. And this, unfortunately, is a scam where we are seeing that a lot of people do lose money as a result of it.
And that's one of the reasons why we have started so many interesting and unique new initiatives to stop scams in real time, stop them in their tracks. One way we do that, we know that people go to make these wire transfers or to buy gift cards at major retailers around Vermont. So we initiated a public-private partnership called Scam Busters with Walmart and CVS pharmacies, which are two of the bigger retailers that provide those services. And through the signage, one of the they do training for their staff to spot scams as they're happening. They will often tell their customers, this seems like a scam and you may not want to make this wire transfer. But one of the problems they have is when somebody's really insistent, they really want to help that grandchild out, they're kind of past the point of, I don't care what happens to me, I need to do this. The retailers feel sometimes like there's a little bit of how much do they intrude on the customer is always right, so how much do you sort of stop them from doing what they want to do? Through signage and alert in a large way in these major retailers, those clerks can now say, why don't you call the Attorney General's office, call the Consumer Assistance Program and check with them. It's a state entity that there's trust in, that people know and understand, and it's a third party, not just the retailer, now saying, we know that this is a scam. Please don't send that money, don't make that transfer. So through that sort of triangle of the consumer being there, right there at the counter, ready to make the transfer, the retailer, and our Consumer Assistance Program, they can stop that from happening before that transfer even happens. Very difficult sometimes. There's been some success with wire carriers of trying to sort of unwind those if the money hasn't actually been released yet on the other end, but it's got to happen really quick to do it. Most often, once that money is gone and it's received, you never get it back.
Yeah. The other thing I want to mention is that we're hearing more and more that scammers are coaching people on what to say when they go to buy the gift cards or to wire transfer the money. So they're saying, if the retailer asks you, well, what's this for? You tell them that it's to, help your grandson buy food or, to pay his rent. Don't say that it's to bail them out of jail or that they've been in an accident and they need to get out of the hospital. So these scammers, again, are quite clever. So we all need to work together to try to help reduce fraud in our state.
And so the other thing that we've done to try to get upstream is actually using the scammers' own technology against them. So we created a scam alert system using the VT alert system with the Department of Public Safety, and now thousands of Vermonters have enrolled, contacted our office or worked with AARP or others to enroll in this scam alert system where you can get in real time when there's a spike in scam activity or if there's a new scam we haven't heard of before, we will send out an email, text message, or voicemail, whichever one of those that you elect to sign up for, you'll receive in real time to alert you that there's a scam activity happening in your area. And that's another way that we can just get the word out there and have people talking about this to stop these scams in their tracks. And that's a really innovative and unique new program. I think the last I was aware there are at least over 7,000 Vermonters signed up. If you call 800-649-2424, which is our Consumer Assistance Program number, our staff and volunteers there can actually help people sign up for it. It's a very simple, just name and
Plus you can sign
email
up
or phone
online.
number.
Yep.
So you can sign up online very quickly and easily, or you can call somebody and they'll walk you through it. And simple as 1, 2, 3 clicks, and you're good to go. And you can get those just like you'd get an Amber Alert or a missing person or a weather alert. You can get a scam alert.
I want to do one other scam.
Sure.
I mean, I have a choice, right? Let's take just a couple minutes to talk about the tech support.
Okay, sure. So the tech support scam, again, we get a high volume of calls about this issue. Traditionally, what we've seen with this is you'll get a cold call from someone saying I'm your internet provider or I'm your computer provider, and there's some type of issue with your internet or your computer. But the good news is I can help you fix it. All you need to do is give me remote access to your computer, and I can fix it in that way, and then you can pay me by giving your credit card, wire transferring money, or paying through gift cards. But it's all a scam. And the bottom line is your computer company and your internet provider would never call you to tell you there's something wrong with your computer. It's the other way around. If there's something wrong, you have to call them. I also want to mention that we're seeing more and more people are aware of these cold calls and knowing that they're scams, so it doesn't seem to be as effective, but we're seeing more pop-ups that are showing up, directing people to call a particular number. And when you call the number, it's the same fact pattern. There's something wrong with your computer or internet. We can help you. You just have to pay us.
This is the pop-up that says there's a virus on your computer.
Exactly. So people should be very, very mindful of that. And when in doubt, contact our office, the Consumer Assistance Program. We're always happy to talk with people, whether it's to talk with them about a scam that they know about and just want to report, or if it's something they're not quite sure of but want to talk through with someone. We're always happy to have those conversations.
A couple other things that I want to squeeze in. Folks can go online and they can also see what the report is for the past year, and
Yep.
I'm sure probably by February we'll have the 2018 report up and available. But there are two things that, Chris, you mentioned to me that are critical things that the office is dealing with. One of them had to do with home improvement scams and the private contractor issue. And maybe you could elaborate on that.
Sure. So, of course, we spent the bulk of our program here today talking about services that we offer and then programs that are available for people to take advantage of, and then things they can do to protect themselves. But there's another leg to this stool, which is legislative reform, policy reform, and even to some extent reform within our own agency. So we have, on the one hand, been very aggressive about providing consumers with new tools to stop frauds and scams from happening. One good example of this, one of the overwhelming complaints that our Consumer Assistance Program receives every year is from aggrieved homeowners, where something has gone wrong with a project. Your home is probably your single biggest investment in your life. For a lot of people, it's their nest egg. They've built equity in those homes. They want to take good care of them. They add on to them over the life as your life changes. Maybe you have kids and you have to add on or expand the home. Maybe you want to do improvements in certain areas. It's a hugely expensive proposition, and it's one that that Vermonters value greatly. So it's in everybody's interest to make sure that the great workers in this profession are able to provide the services that they need to provide, and that homeowners are getting the services that they're paying for when they pay a contractor to come in and make improvements to their home. Unfortunately, what sometimes happens is two things. One is people have figured out that Vermonters, again, in their trusting, community-based way, will often, somebody will drive by in a pickup truck and they see that the paving next to the house is worn and it's cracked, and they'll say, hey, if you give me a deposit, I'll be back next week with my crew and we'll take care of that for you. Or I see there's some loose roof tiles up there, and same thing, give me half the deposit now on the job, it's going to be $5,000. Give me $2,500 now, we'll come back and fix it all up for you. And unfortunately, there's very little regulation in this area, so there's no requirement that a contract be produced right up front that actually spells out for both parties who the parties are and how much it's going to cost and the time and materials and labor that's going to go into a project. That's not a requirement. A lot of, frankly, there's a lot of premium still placed on a handshake deal. But for scammers, they can take advantage of that because they say, give me the deposit now, I'll be back next week. And then the homeowner knows.
There's no licensing required.
There's no registration or licensing. There's nothing there to provide a basis on which somebody could even check the credentials of somebody that's promising to do work. So for the scam artist, they can take that deposit, disappear, never be heard from again, and the homeowner is just out that money. So that's one issue that we hope to deal with through very light touch regulation in partnership with the Secretary of State's office and the Office of Professional Regulation. And the other one is just the questions that come up with legitimate disputes. The homeowner thought they were getting X, the contractor thought they were producing Y. There's a lot of money at stake for both parties, and what do you do if there's no roadmap and there's no insurance requirement? Could very well be that the parties are either left to duke it out in court, which is a very time-consuming and expensive proposition, or at the end of the day, if there's no insurance, there may not be any relief or remedy available at all to the homeowner. So what the Secretary of State's office has proposed is a very minimal, just registration. Tell us who you are, tell us where to reach you, aver that in fact you have some form of insurance that you carry, and that is a really good start. Our office has looked around the rest of the country. Most of the rest of the country requires some form of a written contract to be produced so that the parties have a shared understanding of what the work is going to be and how much it's going to cost. We think if we just did a very simple light touch, simply sign up and register with the state, have a contract or a writing of some kind, and carry some insurance. Those are common sense things that, as we've gone around and done public hearings in this area, we hear routinely from contractors, we'd be crazy not to have a contract. Of course we have a contract. We'd be crazy not to carry insurance. Of course we carry insurance. So the fact that there's no regulatory rules of the road, if you will, that explain that to maybe a small provider, that's frankly good liability protection for the industry professionals, and it's good for the homeowner. So we think that in the end, that's a very good light touch, common sense approach. We've been hearing really good feedback about that. I mentioned on your previous show, we were in Springfield last night. We were in Burlington 2 weeks ago. We're going to Newport a week from now. And we're hearing from contractors all over the state. We're hearing from the home builders. We're hearing from architects. And we're hearing from homeowners that this, frankly, is a common sense reform that's probably long overdue.
Great. One last topic, and I know this is something that you are trying to get your arms around, and that is data brokers and data brokerage. We also refer to it as data aggregating. Maybe you can explain a little bit about what that is and what the dangers are.
Thanks, Elliott. Well, that's a great question, and this is really it's a new frontier. My view has always been that the future of consumer protection is really online because so much data is transferred electronically today. So many people do their shopping online, they do their banking online. So everybody's information in one way, shape, or form is out there. And one of the really important things that we can do is to make sure that people have good data security. Our office spends a lot of time talking with businesses and with consumers about having good data security so that you're not susceptible to hacking or having a security breach. But in addition, we have learned through our work that there is an entire industry out there, the data broker industry. These are third-party corporate entities that buy and sell the data of Vermonters and other American consumers because it's valuable. If you're a legitimate marketing company and you want to sell to a certain socioeconomic or demographic, and you can compile a list of thousands of people, either their email addresses or their direct mail addresses, it's a quick and easy way to get the word out about the services that you're offering. There is a legitimate use and function for that kind of information. Some people want to have advertising and certain things that they're interested come across their computer screens. You'll notice when you go online today, if you do searches for, I don't know, you're looking to buy a new winter coat, suddenly you might see on the side that there's a whole bunch of retailers that suddenly know that you're in the market for a winter coat, and they're going to show you what their sales are. So there are some advantages of that potentially for consumers. But on the other hand, there's a big question out there about what is going on with the use of your personal data. Where is it going? Who can buy it? And the answer is, we don't know. There's a lot that we don't know about the data broker industry. And you may never have heard of some of these companies that now own a piece of your data and are maybe combining it with other things. They might purchase your data from one source and from another source, and then they package it all up together, and they might sell that to another party out there online. And in fact, we've heard anecdotally that that may be a source for scammers and bad actors to get information that can then be very tailored and pinpointed to make it seem like it's a legitimate business activity that lures you into some kind of online transaction.
We refer to as spear phishing.
So it's a way that spear phishers can purchase large numbers of email addresses or telephone numbers or mailing addresses and lure people into these kinds of scam transactions. So we thought, why not? This is a new, it's not really a new industry, it's been going on for some time, but it's new in the sense that we thought to try to define it and then try to shine some sunlight and transparency on this industry that seems to know a lot about us and consumers generally, and we thought it's time for consumers to know more about this industry. And so what we did was, again, very light regulatory framework. Data brokers that operate in Vermont will now be required to disclose who they are, how they can be contacted. We heard a lot from the industry, frankly, that they said, hey, if a consumer contacts us, they can opt out of our services. They don't have to be marketed to anymore. They'll get their names off the list. So we said, if you offer an opt-out, let us know and let consumers know how to opt out of those. They also have to report to us non-PII, currently non-personally identifiable information, data breaches that they experience and how many Vermonters that might impact. So that's a new category for just giving us some idea of what kind of exposure is there that's outside of our current data breach notification standards. So it's a way for us to start to learn more about this industry. My view, frankly, is that for actors in that space, legitimate actors, because there is a legitimate space for that, I think it's good for them. I think that most of those companies came to the table and said, we want to be good corporate actors. We don't mind if consumers know more about us. And so this is a vehicle where we can very quickly and easily provide a database that Vermonters can go to and look and see who all these actors are. If it becomes known that there's a data breach, they can then contact these actors and say, please take me off your list, to the extent that that's available to them. So it's a start. It's a new and emerging industry, and it's one of the challenges that we always have when there's new technology out there or there's new ways of doing business. Sometimes government can be slow to catch up. We want there to be more tools for consumers so that they can help themselves and so we can stop problems before they start.
You know, we see a lot of this information coming out of consumers voluntarily without even realizing that they're providing it. Now, obviously, when you provide information to, for instance, Facebook or any of the other social media companies, that opens up some interesting doors. But little things like I went to McDonald's. At the end of my payment, I got a receipt. It said, oh, if you want a free whatever, or buy one, get one free, fill out the survey. And the survey initially starts with specific questions about that event or that purchase, but then goes into personal likes and dislikes. And so now they're getting information about me that has nothing to do with the purchase that I made. Or, for instance, the warranty forms that people get when they purchase a new refrigerator, new TV set, and it gets into how many of these are your hobbies or your interests, which adds to that available data that can then be used for something else.
Yeah, I mean, there is a huge amount of, for lack of a better word, it's almost surveillance out there. And it's not necessarily from the public sector, it's really the private sector, because as you correctly point out, one of the benefits of a free internet is that it's the information that's become valuable, and that's what's driving the development of the internet and allows corporate entities to offer products for free because they can sell your data to advertisers. So it's the advertisers that are then footing the bill to make social media or whatever else that's out there online free and accessible. And I think for consumers, it's just important to be educated about, everybody likes a free service, but you have to be aware of what information you're providing. So all of those surveys about who's your favorite actor or actress, your likes and dislikes, that information can all be scooped up and then paired with the information you've already provided, your email address, perhaps your home address, your shopping history online, all of those kinds of things, and a very robust profile in a relatively short period of time can be established about you, Elliott. And it's almost the commodification of consumers in our country. And so people just have to be aware of it. I'm not making a judgment about whether it's good or it's bad, but you should be aware of it and concerned to the extent that that information could potentially fall into the wrong hands.
We like to say, if it's being offered for free, you're not the consumer, you're the product. And we find that with this data collection, that tends to be the case. We're just about out of time. In fact, we're probably out of time. And I'm wondering if you each have a final bit of advice that you'd like to provide to our viewers.
Well, I'll just harken back to something I said earlier. First thing is we want to hear from you and your viewers. So please call us, contact our office. Our consumer assistance program provides wonderful customer assistance. That's how we like to think of it. And really willing to walk people through all the things that they can do that we've already talked about to protect themselves. And the other thing I would just say is, again, if you're caught up in one of these scams or you're worried that you might be, don't panic, be vigilant, and ask for help.
Yeah, I think just to kind of echo that, I always tell people, when in doubt, contact CAT. We'll talk through any scenario you have, whether it's something you know is a scam and you want to report, or something you suspect might be a scam. We're happy to have those conversations. We operate a hotline. We are always there to answer those questions. And then I always tell people, if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. So just, when it comes to scams, trust your gut and, always be vigilant about these issues.
Well, Lauren Jandl.
Yes.
Thank you for coming
having us.
And being our guest. And Chris Curtis. Lauren is a small business advocate and with the Consumer Assistance Program at the Attorney General's Office. Chris is the Chief of Public Protection Division of the AG's office. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for joining us as our audience.